broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the accessibility meeting for May 2020. Before we get started, I just want to make sure, Annette, we do have you on.
She won't be able to speak.
She won't be able to speak. How can we verify that? Because that's the one person we can't miss.
Excellent, great.
She's good? Okay, let me call the roll. Representing the PBA.
PBA, Joe Alejandro.
PBA, Anthony Cassiopo.
Okay, EPA.
Kenny Sparks.
SBA.
Anthony Borelli.
LBA.
Lou Turco.
CEA.
Chris Monahan.
Commissioner of Finance.
Phil Dukes. Can you hear me?
Representing the mayor. Yes, we got you, Phil. Representing the mayor.
Yeah, Cynthia Collins, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Comptroller.
John
Susanna
Dorsey.
Vickers.
And John Dorsey, alternate designee.
And the police commissioner.
Stephanie Zimberg for Commissioner Shea.
Actuary.
Sherry Chan, present by invitation.
And the law department.
Marta Roth, present by invitation.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, so we're in public session. Page 1, to accept the minutes of the previous meeting, Wednesday, April 8, 2020. And to confirm the next meeting date, Wednesday, June 10, 2020. Anybody want to so move that? I'll so move it. Okay.
Second.
Article 2. Okay. To approve.
Joey.
I make a motion to move pages 2 through 5. Nothing of a controversial nature.
Yes, okay.
Second by the DEA.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry, Kenny. I cut in.
Oh, that's okay. That's
All
sorry.
right.
No problem.
Okay. Pages 6 through 15 is a resolution regarding the final fiscal year 2018 skim from police to the Police Officers Variable Supplement Fund and the Police Superior Officers Variable Supplement Fund. Before we begin with that, I believe we had sent an email to Sherry Chan just to explain what we think might be a discrepancy. We're not sure. So if Sherry could explain that to us, that'd be very helpful.
So this is Sherry. I never got an email from you guys.
Yeah, I think
When was it sent?
It was sent to Kevin Halloran to send out to everybody.
you sent that out monthly, right, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I got it out to all the trustees, and I don't think Sherry was actually on there. I apologize. She did not get that memo.
Okay. Well, I apologize, Sherry. I can send it to you real quick. You could look through it, but there was a question about difference in amount of money due to the police superior office, the police officers variable supplement fund. Raj, if you want to just quickly mention what the issue was.
Sure, Joe. I think in the final skim memo dated May 6th, it says that the preliminary, in 3 places, it says that the preliminary skim that was calculated back in October of 2018 was 130 million for the police variable supplement fund, and a review of the preliminary calculations that was done in and around October of 2018 has a preliminary skim that was done to be 30 million for the police officer VSF So we wanted to just understand what the potential variance is, if any.
Sure. So first, the police officers, so there's two caps that are put in place when you transfer money from the police pension fund to each of the VSF funds. So one of the cap is obviously how much potential skim there is based on how much the equity earnings perform in comparison to the hypothetical interest rate. So that calculation is from the comptroller. They tell us how much potential skim there is. On top of that, that potential skim is limited by basically the unfunded liability. So you never want to transfer more money from, you never want to transfer the money that's more than to fully fund the VSF liabilities. So if the VSF liabilities are fully funded, then you wouldn't transfer any money from the police pension fund. So there's two caps in place. The police officers transfer was limited by the unfunded liability. Because the police officers VSF fund is almost fully funded, you can only transfer the amount that gets you to 100% funded. So that's what came into play on that side. For the police superior officers VSF, they're not as well funded. So they can take basically all of the potential skim that was earned by the comptroller's office. So those two, that's why those two, the things that affect those two VSFs are different. Now, specifically for the police officers VSF, what came into play, again, you guys were affected by the ABO gate or the unfunded liability. So what came into play was when we got final assets from the police pension fund, when we got the audited assets, those assets increased from the preliminary assets that we got from the police pension fund accountant. So mainly that was what drove it, because when your assets in the VSF increase, then your unfunded liability decreases, because your unfunded liability is basically how much of the liability is not funded for by the assets. So if the assets increase, then your unfunded liability goes down. And because your potential skim that can be moved over is capped by how much it gets you to 100%, the smaller your unfunded liability, the smaller amount gets transferred over. So the good news is that the VSF is almost fully funded. It will be fully funded after this transfer. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no. It's, if I'm looking at your page 2 of your May 6th memo to the Board of Trustees,
yes.
There's a table there that has the 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
Where, yeah, so if you go, so that's a good place. So now on line 1, that the preliminary skim calculated for the POVSF 130 million, and for the PSOVSF it's 1.15 billion.
Yes.
So that was the one, that was the calculation that was done back in October of 2018 when the preliminary skim.
Correct.
So that's my question. I was able to find the 1.15 billion for the VSF in that October 2018 memo. I couldn't find the 130 million in that memo.
So the 130 million is what we tell. So what happens is, so these numbers again are for June 30th, 2018. So what has to happen before year end 2018 for the closing and the CAFR for the comptroller, we have to give them numbers to put into their CAFR by the end of year 2018. So it's done on a preliminary basis, and the 130 million is what we had communicated to the comptroller to put on the asset statements.
But in that October 2018 memo, that number for the POVSF is 30 million.
Right, so that's the one that we communicate to the board and actually have them transfer, versus what the comptroller puts on the book is just a preliminary amount that is a fraction of the amount that gets put on the asset statements. So the comptrollers, for financial statement purposes, they need to put what is actually calculated as a preliminary amount. But what actually gets transferred is only a fraction of that. So, we don't have the final information yet. And, we don't run into issues like previously before where money has to go back from the VSF to the main fund. And so that's why a fraction of the total actually gets transferred.
Yeah, the
And when the
90%.
final amount, when the final amount is calculated, that's when we true it up.
But I'm getting a little confused. Can we share the October 2018 memo on the screen? So
Yeah.
the PSO VSF 1.15 billion is found in that October memo, but for the PO VSF, the 130 million is nowhere found in that October. It's a 30 million found. So that's where I'm getting confused.
I think that I'm not an actuary, so I think what Raj is saying is the PSO VSF is 1.15 billion. 90% of that was the amount, whereas you don't have on 130 million, 27 million is not 90%. That's what I think one of the questions we have.
Yeah, so
where
I can
did that
explain.
come from? Yeah.
So again, if I can be authorized to share my screen, I can pull the October memo up and I can explain the difference.
We're working on it.
Okay. And again, I'll just reiterate. Oh, hold on.
So it's going to ask you what would you like to share? There you go.
So what do you see right now?
You see a spreadsheet?
You see
Excel spreadsheet, right, with summary of VSF count by rank.
Okay, that's not what I wanted to share.
Okay,
how do
we'll share that.
1 second.
They're doing screen grabs all over the world right now. Hold on, I'm taking a photo.
That's public information anyway.
Okay.
Nope, that's not what I want to share either. I'm working on it. Hold on. So you see email right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
What if I open? Nope, that's not what it is. That's not it either. Here we go. Okay. So you guys see the preliminary, you see a preliminary VSF calc on the screen?
For June 30th, 2018.
Yes, for the police officers variable fund. You see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where you see the 30 million and then 90% of that is the 27 million. So that's what got transferred. So you don't see the 130 million because that is for the financial statement purposes. But the 130 million is equivalent to this number right here, rounded. And this number right here is basically the unfunded liability. So it's the difference between the liability right here and the assets. So if you take the difference between those two, you get this unfunded liability. So for the board purposes of transferring the money, this 30 million is shown. But for financial statement purposes, you want to put the true preliminary number. So for financial purposes, when we gave this number, 130 million to the comptroller, this number was actually in the neighborhood of $2 billion approximately.
Mm-hmm.
So when you subtract the assets from the $2 billion is what you would see for 100, you would see 130 million here, which is what was communicated again to the comptroller's office for the purposes of closing the books for CAFR reasons. But for practical reasons of transferring the money, these numbers were shown to the board to actually execute the transfer. Now, if we think, okay, so this is the police superior officers VSF, again, preliminary. So this was the same memo in October 2018. So they're affected differently because their unfunded liability here is 2.1 billion, which is larger than the potential skim that we got from the comptroller's office. So given the equity earnings, you can see this on top, giving the equity earnings and dividing it out between the police officers VSF and the police superior officers VSF, the police superiors VSF was able to capture, their potential skim was 1.15 billion. But because their unfunded liability was larger than that, they're not capped by how much skim gets transferred. So this is the number that actually was used. And if you take 95% of that rounded, it's this 1.035. I can flip back. I'll flip back to police officers VSF, which is a different story, like I said, because you guys, the police officers VSF potentially could have gotten 1.29 billion, but because their unfunded is much lower because they're in a better funded position, their unfunded is much lower. You only want to transfer the amount that gets you to 100% funded.
Raj, you have that?
Yeah, I have a question. Is the 130 million number that's reflected as a preliminary skim that was calculated, that's reflected in the May 6th memo, is that 130 million number reflected anywhere in the October 3rd, 2018 memo?
No, because this is for the board's transferring money perspective. And for financial purposes, we're bounded by GFOA, the Governmental Financial, Officers Association Board, where they require us to report on a different basis.
So if the preliminary skim reported in the October memo was 30 million, if I look at line L was 30 million, why isn't that same 30 million being reflected in the May 6, 2020 memo to the board?
So of the 30 million, only 95% of it was transferred. So this amount was transferred. I'm trying to highlight it. And this amount, this 27 million was reflected in the May 6, 2020 memo.
That I understand, but in the table on page 2, in line 1, it says 130 million. But that's nowhere to be found in the June 30th memo. And
right.
For the VSFO, it's, if you look at the chart after this, it says 1.15 billion, and that's acquired from line L. So I'm just asking why the same number from line L isn't being reflected in line 1 of the May 6th memo.
Okay, so for police officers, you take, these are rounded basis, but you take the smaller of H and K. So for police officers, K was lower. So that's why it gets reflected here. But let's scroll to the police superior officers. So you do the same exercise where you take the smaller of H and K. And so for the police superiors officers case, H was lower. That's why you see directly the 95% there. Because GFOA, for financial reporting purposes, has no stipulation on this potential skim. It only has stipulations on the liability, which affects K. But in superior officer's case, K never came into play for the final number. Only H did. But it's a different story, I'm scrolling up, for police officers, because K was a number that was eventually used, but GFOA has stipulations of how you report that.
It's Joe. I think I have to, it's not an issue that I'm going to feel comfortable during this session. We might have to have a further discussion. Is there a possibility to table the motion, the resolution?
Are you asking me or the board members? I don't.
No, I'm asking Joe.
Okay.
I'm prepared to well, let me take a 5-minute caucus on this, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'm gonna, if we're gonna do that, I'll pause this recording.
Yes. Okay. And I would ask the union trustees and Raj to sign into the caucus session.
I think it's important that they mute.
So everybody goes on mute.
One second, Joe. Well, we'll go on the caucus. We'll discuss.
Okay, we're recording.
Okay. I don't know. Is everybody back?
I'm here.
Okay, Sherry.
Joe,
I think the other union. Just check in with Kevin and let him know that you're back on from the caucus.
Hey, Kevin, could you hear me? Kevin Luturco.
Okay, we got Lou Turco. Do you want me to go through again just to find out if we've got everybody? We got Joe. I can see you. I can hear you. We got Lou Turco. Kenny Sparks is here. Anthony Borelli.
I'm here.
Okay. Chris Monahan.
Chris, you're muted.
I'm here, Kevin.
Okay. Phil Dukes.
Here.
Cynthia Collins.
Here.
Susanna Vickers. Susanna Vickers.
I don't think she. Okay.
John Dorsa.
Oh, I'm present, all right.
Stephanie is in the room with me. Kenny's in the room with me, and we've got the actuary. I heard Sherry on the line, so okay.
All right. So Sherry, after a short caucus, the PBA would request that we're not looking to hold up the vote, but we request that Raj will reach out to you and set up maybe some time this week so you could thoroughly go through an explanation that you just did, a short, quick explanation. You'd like to have a more thorough one.
Sure.
So if you can set that up, that would be great. That would be great. And then then we'll have no problem going through this vote right now. So
Okay.
there's a resolution, right? Thank you, Sherry. So Raj will reach out to you by the end of today. Is that
Okay.
good?
Yep.
And then you can set up some time this week. Okay. All right. Very good. So there's a motion, there's a resolution on, and the PBA at this point requests a roll call vote.
Okay. No, I don't think they're gonna let it go. So PBA.
PBA abstains at this time.
SBA,
Yes.
LBA,
Yes.
CEA,
Yes.
Commissioner of Finance,
Yes.
Mayor,
What that sentence said.
what did you say?
So AJ, what does that say?
Who'd you just call for?
Controller,
Oh, yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
and Police Commissioner.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, so now the PBA, there's a resolution regarding the final fiscal year 2018 skim for the police officers variable supplement fund. So the PBA, I believe, has to make a motion to go into.
Right.
Hello?
Okay, just want to.
PBA has to make a motion to go into the police officers variable supplement fund.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Control's office.
From the controller, okay.
So do you need to do a roll call for the police officers variable supplement fund?
Representing the PBA,
Joe Alejandro,
Commissioner of Finance,
Phil Dukes.
Mayor,
Cynthia Collins.
and Controller.
John Dorsa.
Okay, Joe?
is Anthony Cassiopo on for this? We might have lost him. Do you show him on the,
I don't see him on here, Joe.
oh, okay. All right.
Joe, do you have his proxy?
I guess, let me just quickly check. He might have had to go somewhere. Let me just put you on mute.
Guys, Mark Marino, Anthony just texted me that he's having problems hearing and seeing again.
Yeah, you heard Marino. So I did speak to Cassiopo. He is having some issues and he's trying to get back on.
So should we proceed?
Yeah, let's proceed.
Or would you like us to go into the police superiors while we wait?
Yeah, all right. So I can't put you into session for police superiors because I'm not a member of that.
All right. So
I'd
like to
take us out of it.
Well, I would like to.
I think we can proceed with just you, the way the statutes are, unless you would rather.
I think for purposes of this vote, we could proceed forward. And then I'll. Well, all right. Why don't we proceed forward on this one?
All right. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation from the actuary in order to proceed with receipt of the skim.
Mayor's
The
office
PBA
seconds.
Okay. The only thing is the PBA would like a roll call vote.
Okay, PBA,
PBA abstains on this matter.
Commissioner of Finance,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Controller.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
So I would like to make a motion that we exit police officers variable supplement fund and enter the PSOVSF fund.
Oh, hold on a second, John.
Second.
Two separate.
Chris Monahan will second.
No,
Two separate motions.
Would you like me? Wait. Okay. I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion that we exit POVSF and enter the police pension fund.
Second, mayor's office.
Okay. And now we need a motion to go into the PSO VSF.
I'll make the motion.
I'd like to,
I didn't get that. We got a motion? Kenny, you want to make that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, we got a motion from Kenny Sparks, DEA. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Anthony Borelli.
Borelli. That was Anthony Borelli? Okay. All right, so representing the DEA,
Kenny Sparks.
representing the FDA,
Anthony Borelli.
LBA,
Lou Turco.
DEA,
Chris Monahan.
Commissioner of Finance,
Yeah, Phil Dukes.
Mayor,
Cynthia Collins,
and the Controller.
Susanna Vickers.
Okay, we have a quorum. We hear a motion to accept.
Make a motion to accept.
Kenny Sparks making a motion. We have a second.
I'll second Anthony Borelli.
Okay, so moved. We need a motion to exit the PSO VSF and go back into the public.
I make a motion to exit PSO VSF, go back into public.
Second,
Second.
Chris Jones also.
Okay, so everybody's back on the public session. And I believe the last matter on the agenda is page 42, a memorandum regarding fiscal year 2021 proposed administrative budget and fiscal year 2021 proposed COPS project budget.
Okay, that is merely a distribution. It's not an actionable item. So we will reach out to follow up with some meetings in regards to the budget. And we will vote on in June.
So that would be so noted, right? So, and I make a motion then to go into executive session of the police pension fund for purposes of discussing health matters.
Second?
Second.
DEA, okay?